Batman doesn't kill. That is the rule of thumb that everybody likes to abide by, unless your name happens to be Zack Snyder. And in this movie, Batman Under the Red Hood, that is very much put to the test. And so, as I was sitting down to watch this for the first time the other night, I was very much reminded of that sentiment, mostly because right now Zack Snyder, in promotion for Rebel Moon Part 2, was on the Joe Rogan podcast and talking about how Batman kills. And I'm under the belief that Batman kills. I don't think there's any way to look at Batman and how much bodily damage he can do to a meat sack and not have it lead to like a lot of traumatic internal bleeding and a lot of injuries that could be fatal if left unattended. And he tends to kind of beat up these thugs and leave them in the gutter. You know, there's a real big gray area when it comes to Batman and the ethics and the morals of killing. But goddamn, there's a really good movie here as well. This Under the Red Hood, I was very impressed with. So let me just kind of do a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. I understand it's been a while since I've done a Podio commentary. I keep trying to bring it back. I really have. This is a sponsored episode from Jess. Thank you very much for sponsoring this episode. Kind of like forcing me to do what I like to do, which is to talk about movies. And he chose a movie that he actually sent me a long time ago. I kind of forgot that he sent it to me, to be honest with you. And then he sponsored the episode, and I happened to be looking through a box of some of the stuff he had sent me. And there it was, Batman Under the Red Hood DVD. And I had to look at that for a second and go, DVD? That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. I don't buy DVDs anymore. I just buy Blu-rays or 4Ks. But anyway, I sat down in bed and I popped the disc in. And, you know, like I feel it feels archaic to me to like look at a DVD. Usually I do everything digital now. Right. So DVDs are still kind of weird. Like this is old kind of throwback, especially because the DVD itself is like, there's not a lot of like pizzazz in regards to like the menu. Right. There's a little preview, little introduction showcase, like 15-minute short about Jonah Hex, which I clicked on accidentally, ended up watching the whole thing. Really good. Tom Jane using his Punisher voice as Jonah Hex to battle a very demented Linda Hamilton. Lots of violence. Loved it. And then of course I get into the under the red hood, under the black hood, Jesus, Under the Red Hood. And I don't know much about the story, right? I know of the character Jason Todd. I don't know anything about Jason Todd. I just know the name. That he was a Robin, but he's not Tim Drake, right? And then he was Batman's apprentice, and then he was killed, brought back to life, put on the red hood, becomes more of a vigilante who doesn't have to live by the same morals or moral code that Batman does. I mean, that basically summarizes his character in the thing, but it makes a lot of sense because of his anger and his pain and his own PTSD from what happens. And so the movie starts off with the Joker. By the way, I just got to say, brilliantly played by John DiMaggio, right? Bending Rodriguez kills it as the Joker. But as I'm watching this performance, all I can think of is David Harbour from Stranger Things. It just, for some reason, like the very chiseled looks of the Joker's face and the way that DiMaggio kind of does the voice, I could see David Harbour kind of like, you know, like really kind of hamming up every scene he's in with this real dark intensity behind the voice and the eyes and the expression that would not only make it kind of comical, but so amazingly unnerving that now in my brain, that's kind of a solid fan cast that maybe we should do. Could we bully James Gunn into doing that? But in the movie, you know, you've got Jason Todd being beat to hell by the Joker with a crowbar, like in a warehouse. You know, in Eastern Europe, I think it was in Bosnia, Sarajevo, which is a really interesting place to kind of start it. It's a cold open. So you don't really know why Batman is there. You see Ra's al Ghul, he's talking like, I don't think the detective will make it. Doesn't call him the Dark Knight, doesn't call him the Batman, calls him the detective. I thought that was kind of cool. And of course, the Joker straight up blows up the warehouse, kills Jason Todd. And then 5 years later, Batman, wonderfully played by Bruce Greenwood, doing his best Kevin Conroy impersonation. And I am not knocking Bruce Greenwood under any circumstance. I really do love Bruce Greenwood. All right. From my first experience with him as an actor, which was Nowhere Man, a show on UPN back in the 90s that was shot in Portland, where I grew up. And I was so fascinated by it because all I wanted to do was like go see the show being made. So I've always been a Bruce Greenwood guy. But he's really good here. He's really good. He's angry, he does the voice really well, does the pain really well, obviously. But they are now up against, the mysterious vigilante known as the Red Hood, who comes on and calls together all the drug dealers, gets them in a room, tells them, you work for me now, I get 40%, no dealing drugs to children, and I'm going to keep the Batman and the Black Mask off your booty. Oh, by the way, look in this duffel bag. It's the heads of all your lieutenants. And then there's a line that he says that I really like, and he just goes, I did this in 2 hours. Imagine what I could do if I had all evening. And I was like, ooh, yeah, ooh, baby. That's a good line right there. I thought that was great. And of course, he's voiced by Jensen Ackles. And I'm not a big supernatural guy. It's not a show that really, I've seen some episodes of the show, but it never really gripped me like it did a lot of people. But for me, my only real experience with him is as Soldier Boy on The Boys. And he kind of has a little bit of that bravado in his voice, nowhere near as crazy as Soldier Boy was. But he, this is also 13 years or so before Soldier Boy. So it was definitely interesting to kind of like just kind of hear him and then kind of picture that in my mind. But he definitely brought a lot to the table in just regards to like his swagger, his style, the way that he performed the role. I thought that was pretty good. And then, of course, we do get Nightwing, Dick Grayson. What did I say earlier? Did I say Dick Grayson earlier? Did I say Tim Drake? You know what? I should know Dick Grayson. I really don't read a lot of Batman comics, but I should know Dick Grayson. But there's so many Robins now, I just kind of lose. Aren't they doing Tim Drake in the upcoming like Batman Brave and the Bold movie? Right? Like, who knows at this point anymore which Robin is which? I know people are going to give me crap about that, but I'll correct it. Anyway, Nightwing, voiced by Neil Patrick Harris, which kind of caught me by surprise that he was in this. He did a great job. Honest to God, Neil Patrick Harris, NPH, man. This is also right around the height of How I Met Your Mother was really big around 2010. So he was still rocking it at that time. And, he was good as that. And they kind of team up together and they take on, what's the name of the character? Amazo. This was kind of dumb. This is one of the things I hate about some of these comics, I'll be fair. Like, there's a scene like Batman is trying to figure out who like the Red Hood is. And he's like tracking stuff down. And they end up finding this Amazo. What is this? It's like an advanced android that kills superheroes and absorbs their powers or can emulate their powers. And like, it's a cool fight scene, but it's just like fighting like a mega Superman, Aquaman sort of. You lose me in these comics with this kind of stuff. I'm not going to lie. You lose me with those kind of things. Because when you start having an amalgamation of a character like that's like, oh, it just absorbs superhero powers. It kills superheroes. And it's just like, okay. It's kind of dumb, right? But then again, if you believe Superman can fly and Wonder Woman can pilot an invisible jet and Aquaman can talk to fish, and I guess having a robot that's, kind of like soul sucks superhero powers is kind of, I guess, something that would be in the realm of legitimacy. I always just kind of felt that it's like a cop-out sort of thing, to be fair. But in this particular case, Red Hood had ordered the theft of Amazo from Black Mask in order to piss off Black Mask. Batman and Nightwing, destroy it. Black Mask gets super pissed off and not even mad at Batman. That's the funny thing. He's mad at the Red Hood and wants this guy dead. Dead, you hear me? Dead. He wants him gone. He wants him dead. He wants him out. All that stuff. And of course, he's doing this while he's just beating the crap out of his own people. Now, arguably, I know that like, was it Roman Sionis? That's his name, I think. Is kind of like, he's psychopath, right? I just, again, like without having a lot of like excess knowledge of these characters, it just seems kind of weird that all of his bodyguards are there. Just like, I'm just going to get punched around. Like they're an abused wife in a very toxic relationship. And they're like, that's okay. He hits me, but he loves me anyway. But it's just, it's henchman mentality, I guess, bunch of Lennies. They're cannon fodder. And even in this one, they're considered cannon fodder. One of the things I thought that was interesting was, of course, that the Red Hood was trying to torture and torment Batman, right? By coming on in and taking over the drug trade to kind of establish his dominance, and then using that as a way to kind of lure Batman back to Ace Chemicals, where the Joker all began, obviously where the Red Hood began, kind of forcing Batman and Nightwing to go speak with the Joker. Of course, he denies any involvement, but you never know if he's telling the truth. And all of that ultimately leading to them chasing the Red Hood, to him kind of unveiling who he is by saying that he knows who Bruce is, knows his moves. And then Bruce starts to figure out that it's really Jason Todd, right? And then, of course, he travels back to Ra's al Ghul, and he's like, what happened? Right? And he's like, oh, yeah, your boy was dead. I felt bad that I had cost the life of your pal, of your protege, of your buddy, of one of your kind of like spiritual sons. So we found a way to steal his body from the casket that you had prepared while it was like left in customs overnight. And we replaced it with the synthetic body, figuring you wouldn't conduct an autopsy, which is actually a pretty smart move. And then we would, like, we're going to put him in the Lazarus pit. And then they have him wrapped like a mummy. He wakes up wrapped like a mummy, and then freaks out, runs out, jumps off a cliff into the unknown. And then Ra's is all like, I've done my part. Well, that's not true. I'm kind of being a little bit over the top there. He says to Batman, I sent my armies to look for him, but we never did. We thought that he was dead. I'm like, okay, thanks. You did your part, I guess, right? You brought him back from the dead, eye for an eye, with repentance. It's like, what's funny about that though is like Ra's al Ghul in this particular instance is actually like a solid character that I liked. I just kind of enjoyed his logic. Like, yeah, I hired the Joker to cause some trouble while I was trying to ransack the European like financial sector. And then I didn't realize that he was going to like kidnap your boy. And then I didn't realize he was going to kill him. And I felt really bad about that. So like, we brought him back from the dead. Yay. It's like, it was like, yeah, man, the logic is sound. You can understand it. And then like the very nonchalant way of like, yeah, we did our part, because Batman sneaks in and then they're like, all the guards are there. And they're like, should we put out the alarm? And they're like, nah, we've already done what we've done. He's like, it's out of our hands now. Like we've returned him his boy. He now knows. No harm, no foul, right? Just such a weird way of looking at it, and just very, very quickly dismissive of it. I just thought was great. Just because like you would expect Batman to be more pissed, I guess, but like whatever. Even though I'm kind of jumping around here, I thought it was interesting though that the Red Hood was trying to really mess with Black Mask. Like really mess with him by trying to almost, you could say, fake an assassination attempt. It obviously was meant to look real to Black Mask to increase his paranoia that the Red Hood is coming to kill him, and that the only way to save him, the only way to protect himself is to basically make a deal with the devil. So he pays a bunch of guards at Arkham to look the other way as they break the Joker out, thinking that he can control the Joker with a deal. And the Joker ends up killing every one of his bodyguards in like 3 seconds, and then it's like, yeah, all right, yeah, I'll do it. I'll kill the Red Hood. I'll kill this guy. And then he puts on this massive display where they've got this tanker truck, or this truck with all like Black Mask and all the other heads of the drug cartel guys. And they're all like in this truck, and the Joker has it on a bridge, and he's going to burn it all. And out comes Red Hood. And you find out that Red Hood had done all of that in order to lure the Joker out, in order to get the Joker into a space where he could get him. And I thought that was actually really cool, because usually you'd have a situation like this where it's meant to like the Joker would be luring Batman out and then have some other play, right? Like trick the Batman into giving in, to his humanity, if you will, by wanting to save these people, even though it's the bad guys. And Batman does. He does. But the tables were definitely turned here that I thought was a really cool twist. Because it does fall in, it does fall in line with the way a lot of these stories tend to play out, But then, of course, we get to the end game where Jason Todd grabs the Joker, takes him to a remote location, beats the ever-loving crap out of him, waits for Batman to find him, and then puts Batman in this ultimate situation where Batman has got to choose. Either he kills Jason Todd or Jason Todd kills the Joker, because Jason Todd is upset that the Batman did not kill the Joker in the wake of the Joker killing Jason Todd. He looks at it as being this whole you were like my father. I'm like your son. You don't love me. You never loved me. You let me die. And then you didn't even kill the guy who did it. And that frustration was so well done because, I think any father-son dynamic, and not to say it's going to have the exact same scenario, but you get a lot of that from father to son. The father tries to teach the son just wants approval from the father. It's a very interesting dynamic, especially when you have it being set around the idea of training a young boy to be a ninja and to beat the crap out of bad guys, but not kill them, as evidenced by some of the flashbacks we saw with Jason Todd coming very close to or causing more damage to the person than necessary, right? Not pulling his punches, which is kind of what Batman was trying to say about control. And in this case, this Jason, while older and angrier, still doesn't have that level of control, but he thinks by putting in this ultimatum that Batman will use a gun, kill the Joker, and therefore choose Jason. And the Batman just doesn't do it. He just doesn't do it. He's like, F it, F you, F this, I'm out, I'm done, walks away. Now, he does it on purpose, obviously, because he doesn't think that Jason will kill the Joker. He doesn't want to aid and abet to Jason killing the Joker. He doesn't want that on his conscience. I get that. So he's basically calling his bluff. But at the same time, Jason had set these explosives in the apartment, and Batman shoots the gun out of Jason's hand. The bomb gets ready to go off. He saves the Joker. Jason gets poof annihilated. Joker and him live. Joker goes back to Arkham. Batman goes back to the Batcave. Jason's gone, but there's still the old Robin suit. Batman looks at that. Alfred says, "Do you want me to get rid of it?" Batman says, "No, it won't change anything." And then it cuts to a flashback of the first day of Jason Todd being Robin. And he's like, "This is the best day of my life." And then it ends. Now, what I said on Twitter when this is over was it was a really great movie, but I feel like the ending, I get the ending of what they're going for, but I don't like that kind of lack of resolution. I don't like that lack of resolution there. It's like everything that the Red Hood did, right, was ultimately for naught because the Joker goes back to Arkham. The Joker's alive. Black Mask gets arrested. All the drug dealers get arrested. Maybe, that's a good thing. Keep drugs off the street. Batman is still Batman. Nothing about that has changed. Batman hasn't fundamentally changed either. He's not. He hasn't fundamentally changed. He still doesn't give Jason what he wants, or even Nightwing what he wants, which is just approval. Even Nightwing is this early on in the movie was just like, "Thank you. You're welcome, Dad, you bastard." Right? He never says it. That weird tough love that a lot of boomer dads have for some reason. It's like this weird thing. I can't tell my kid I love him because that will make him a sissy. I that's the vibe I get at this point in time. I understand that there's the compartmentalization of emotions and you have to restrict how you feel and you can't be judged by that, or not judged. You can't be ruled by that when you are in these situations. I understand that. But it's at the same time, that is all these guys wanted was acknowledgement from their father. It's the thing. It's if Jason Todd would not have died, that Robin would have grown up to resent his dad. That's what would have happened. He would have resented his father. And from there, who knows what would have happened. So the movie kind of ends where it begins. Jason Todd is dead. Batman's upset. It's really about it. It's a good story. It's a really good story. There's a lot of great action sequences in the movie. There's a lot of great character moments in the movie. There's really, really, really good voice acting. It felt like there should be more. Like there needed to be an actual ending to the movie. Not just like, here is the climax, 2 seconds later, roll end credits. Which is what it felt like to me. But maybe I'm the only one who thinks that way, because the movie came out, did very well with critics, did very well with fans. It released July 27th, 2010. That's, if I recall correctly, that was during San Diego Comic-Con weekend. Usually around the time when Warner Brothers releases a new DC animated movie, because you have like ultimate hype surrounding Comic-Con. Because a couple years later, in 2016, during Comic-Con or right after Comic-Con, is when the animated version of The Killing Joke came out, and that did really well, despite people not liking the extra 30 minutes added to the beginning, although I'm one of the few that did. Maybe one day I'll talk about that, because I still like that quite a bit. But the movie actually did $12 million in home video sales, which is really good. $12 million in home video sales for an animated straight-to-DVD movie that was only like 75 minutes long. It's shorter than 3 episodes of the animated series. Or it's about the same length, maybe a little longer, 3.5 episodes maybe, without opening and ending credits. But the thing with this, though, I look at the success of this, and I look at how people talk about the DCAU and how the DC animated universe was so good for so long. Marvel has never been able to compete in that market. They've never really tried to compete in that market after being bought by Disney, which is so weird considering. But when I say that DC should absolutely start working in the realm of animation only, skip all live action content, this is what I'm talking about. You can do more. You can be more than your competition. You can be exactly where they're not. And that's what this movie kind of proves. Not to say that it would have done like 120 million had it been released theatrically. I think it's a little bit different. I think people would have given it a low cinema score based upon the ending. Like your average DC fan would have given it high marks, but your average moviegoer would have been like, what the was that ending? Holy crap. What was that? You know, and I think that's the big issue there. But when it comes to the future of this franchise, you know, the animation side of it is where it should be. It's where it always should have been. But they don't want to do that for some reason. They want to continuously pump money into these live action movies that kind of fail to succeed. And I'm going to be curious about where the DCU goes now. But then again, you look at the DC League of Super Pets, you know, $90 million CG movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It didn't do very good. Didn't do very good. I don't know. Maybe Kate McKinnon as the bad guy in that one. It was really kind of was a non-starter because she was not great. But I'm not talking about that movie. I'm talking about Under the Red Hood. I know there was a sequel that they released in 2020 called Batman: Death in the Family. I think this is the one that's kind of like a choose your own adventure. Right? It's a spiritual sequel. Yes, an interactive short film based on alternative outcomes of the storyline of the same name. It's a spiritual sequel to Batman: Under the Red Hood. And that was released on Blu-ray October 13th, 2020. So again, another Batman story involving the death of Robin, at least from what the box art says here. But it just kind of seems like more of the same, you know, not really a bad thing, but DC can be so much more, as evidenced by the follow-up a couple years later with Batman: The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and Part 2, which is phenomenal. But going back to this one, I liked it a lot. I did. I thought it was really well done. I would have loved to have seen it be a little bit longer, fleshed out a little bit more. Maybe go for that full 90 minutes versus 75. It's a bit on the short side. Because everything about it was fantastic. The writing, the dialogue, the action, the characters was great. It was just the ending I thought was just super fast. Like the Flash on a first date. Like did not need to be that fast. But those are just my thoughts and my opinions. Of course, this is Podio commentary, and I always invite you guys to let me know. You can follow me on Twitter at mjarbo. You can find me on YouTube at Podio commentary. And I'll be back with another episode very soon, talking about the movie Gale Force, which is another sponsored episode. If you want to sponsor episodes, hit me up, let me know. I'll talk about what you want me to see. I'll see you guys later. Have yourself a great one. Thank you again, and peace out.